हरिः ओम् नमः सर्वेभ्यः। अष्टाध्यायी परिचयः इत्यस्य अद्य 38 पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे हल् सन्धि विशिष्टानि अवशिष्टानि सूत्राणि इत्युक्ते पूर्वसवर्णः छत्वं तथा लोपः कथं विधीयते एतेषां सूत्राणाम् अध्ययनं कुर्मः। शुक्लां वरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। अस्माकं वर्गस्य द्वे प्रयोजने अष्टाध्याय्याः आहत्य 600 सूत्राणां व्याख्यासहितम् उदाहरणसहितं च अध्ययनं तथा च अष्टाध्याय्याः प्रथमाध्यायस्य प्रथमपादस्य द्वितीयपादस्य च कण्ठस्थीकरणम्। हल् सन्धेः अध्ययनं प्रचलत् अस्ति। So starting from class number 34, we started studying Hal Sandhi. In class 34, we studied Padante Hal Sandhau Adeshaha. Then in class 35, we talked about Agamaha. Then in class 36, we talked about Rutvam, Shtutvam, Shtutvam. In the yesterday's class, we discussed sutras from 8.4, namely Dvitvam, Jashtvam, Charatvam, and Parasavarnaha. Now only three fundamental concepts are remaining. Purvasavarnaha, so there are these two sutras for Purvasavarnaha. Chhatvam, there is this one sutram Shashchoti for Chhatvam. And then Lopaha, there are these two sutras, Halo Yamam Yami Lopaha and Jharo jhari savarne for Lopa. So with these three sutras, we have reached almost the end of Ashtadhyayi, not sequentially, directly we are jumping to the end, but we have completed the discussion of Hal Sandhi with all these sutras. In the next week, the two classes, we will talk about the concept of the Visarga Sandhi and the concept of the Refadeshaha. But before that, let us finish the sutras of Hal Sandhi Prakaranam. 5 of them are remaining. Let's start. The first is Purvasavarnaha. So in the previous class, we talked about Parasavarnaha. Torli was the example of Parasavarnaha. These words are actually little confusing because understand, when you say Parasavarnaha, the transformation actually happens on the Purva letter. So the Savarna of the Para acts as an Adesha in place of Purva. So when you have Marud plus Lunati, it is the Dakara, it is the Purva Varna that undergoes a transformation, and the Adesh is determined by the Para Varna. It is the Savarna of the Para which comes as an Adesha. Therefore, the name Parasavarna Sandhi. Now, exact opposite is happening over here. Hal Sandhau Purvasavarnaha. So now the transformation is on the Para letter, and the Adesha will be determined by looking at the Purva letter and finding an appropriate Savarna of that. So Hal Sandhau Purvasavarnaha Dvividhaha. तत्र प्रायेण उभयथा उदाहरणानि भवद्भिः सर्वैः ज्ञायन्ते, अतः इदानीम् एकवारं झटिति उक्त्वा सूत्राणाम् अध्ययनं कुर्मः. So the first type of Purva Savarna is specific to a certain Upasarga Dhatu condition only. There must be Udda Upasarga. So out of those 22 Upasargas, there is an Upasarga called Udda. By the way, the Upasarga is actually Dakaranta. So because sometimes Chartva will happen, people end up in using it as Takaranta, Utpatati and so on. But what is the original Upasarga? It is Dakaranta Upasarga. So Udda iti Upasargaha tatha cha sthatisthati, to stay, iti dhatuhu. Nochet stambha, stambha rodhane, same meaning, to stop at one place, the lack of movement. So stambha iti dhatuhu. So if you have the Uda Upasarga attached to the stha or the stambha dhatu, then what happens in the prakriya? Atra asyam prakriyayam sarvaprathamam adau kharicha iti chartve krute. So you have Udda becoming Utta. Varga prathamadeshaha bhavati. Utta plus tha or stambha iti sthite sakarasya ityukte paravarnasya. It can be sakara of stha or sakara of stambha. परवर्णस्य पूर्वसवर्णादेशः इत्युक्ते तकारस्य सवर्णः out of the न one has to be picked up. We will see it gets picked up by bahya prayatna. I think it was one of the exercises also when we learned the bahya prayatnas, but the thakara is the selected candidate. Therefore sakarasya पूर्वसवर्णादेशः इत्युक्ते थकारादेशः भवति. सो पश्यामः उद् प्लस स्थानम इत्यत्र सकारस्य थकारादेशे कृते उत् प्लस डबल थकार. This is not a dvitva. This is sakara getting converted to thakara. Utta plus thanam. Combine everything. So there is a sanyog of 3 letters. There is a ta from utta and there is a double thakara from thanam. So that's uttathanam. And agre, we are going to see this sutram of lopa. So there is this sutram Jharo jhari savarne is the last sutram of today's class that we are going to study. अग्रे झरो झरि सवर्णे इत्यनेन प्रथम थकारस्य विकल्पेन लोपे कृते उत्थानम इत्यपि सिद्ध्यति. So see the beauty how brilliantly Panini Maharshi has arranged the sutras that we are almost near the end of Ashtadhyayi. We are doing a transformation by 8461, and after doing transformation on 8461 we can employ the next sutram which is 8465. So we still have scope to go down. So this way sutras have been arranged with very precise caution. Anyway, so we have utta plus sthanam, sakara se thakara desha, that is the purvasavarna, and then you have lopa. The lopa is optional, the purvasavarna is compulsory. The purvasavarna is not optional. You cannot just keep th and sa as it is. The sa must be converted to th. The next step, jharo jhari savarne, is optional. Similarly, utta plus stambhanam, sa gets converted to th. Utta plus th tambhanam. So sa has become th. The next th is not affected. So utta plus th tambhanam. Utta th tambhanam. Same thing. Jharo jhari savarnityanena thakarasya vikalpena lope krute uttambhanam. So once the thakara is removed, it is just takara connected to takara. So how is this thakara being removed by Jharo jhari savarne? We are going to learn about it. But just I'll mention so that you understand what is going on over here. Jharaha jhari savarne. If there is a jhara letter and if there is a savarna jhara letter after it, then this jhara is going to be removed. So in case of tha plus tha, there was a jhara letter and there was a savarna jhara letter. So the first thakara was removed. Similarly, in case of tha plus tha, there must be a jhara letter, another jhara letter, so that tha is removed. There must be a hal letter before that. So the actual sequence is hal plus jhara. So that's why this ta acts as the hal letter, and then after that, whichever is the jhara letter, savarne jharvarne pare tasya lopaha bhavati. We will see this sutra towards the end. In fact, I want one of you to explain that sutra. I'll come to it at the end of the class. So these are the examples. This is the first type of Purvasavarna. It only happens in a very specific Upasarga plus Dhatu condition, Uda plus Stha. Now, when I say Stha, it is any Dhatu form that starts with Stha. So, it can be, say, Lut Lakar, Sthata. That is the Lut Lakar form. So, it can be a Tinganta form. It can even be a Krudanta form like Sthanam. That's the Krudanta form. The requirement is that it must be of the Dhatu Stha and it must actually start with stha. So sa plus tha plus a. That's the not even sa plus tha plus a. Sthitva and so on is also okay. Sa plus tha, because it is the sakara that is undergoing the transformation. Similarly, uta stambhanam atrapi krudanta rupasya udaharanam darshitam asti. That's all about the first case of Purvasavarna. The second case, again very well known, hakarasya varga chaturthaha. So tadhitam, tad plus hitam, that's the second Purvasavarna. So jhaya varnat parasya, jhay is 1, 2, 3, 4, varga prathama to varga chaturtha. Jhay varnat parasya hakarasya vikalpena Purvasavarnadesha, which is varga chaturthadesha bhavati. So vach plus hari. Ityatra, remember the sequence, ado kutve krute vak, तदनन्तरं जष्ट्वे कृते वाग्, तदनन्तरं पूर्वसवर्णादेशे कृते हकारस्य पूर्वसवर्णः इत्युक्ते गकारस्य सवर्णः इत्युक्ते वर्गचतुर्थः घकारः. We will see by tallying the bahya prayatnas how the ghakara comes. Finally, you get vag plus ghari, combining vag ghari. This kind of purva savarna is optional. The previous purva savarna is compulsory. This one is optional. So you can have vag ghari pakshe vag hari ityapi sadhu asti. In the same way, tad plus hitam, tad plus dhitam, tadhitam, the name of the pratyaya, tadhitam, pakshe tadhitam ityapi sadhu. Nobody calls the pratyaya as tadhitam. So there the sandhi is considered always done, not compulsory, always done. So the convention is to do the sandhi always, but tadhitam ityapi sadhu shabdaha eva. Let's look at the sutras. Sutras are simple. Udaha stha stambhoho purvasya and jhayoho nyatarasyam. So udaha stha stambhoho purvasya, udaha parayoho stha stambhoho purvasavarnaha syat samhitayam. Udaha is panchami ekvachanam. So udaha parasya. Stha stambho is shashti dvivachanam. Why do I say ekvachan every time? Typing mistake. Shashti dvivachanam. So that is the sthani. Purvasya is the purvasya savarnaha. So it indicates the avayava. Purvasya savarnaha bhavati samhitayam. Udaha stha stambhoho samhitayam purvasya savarnaha. I have explained all this. Udaha purvanittam stha stambho sthani and so on. The beauty over here is you can actually see Adev Parasya Sutra in action. We have actually seen this sutra as an example of Adehe Parasya. But what is happening? There is a Purva Nimitta. Purva Nimitta Danantaram Tatra Sthaninaha Nirdeshaha Krutah Asti. Asyam Sthitau Alontyasya Ityanena Antima Varnasyaha Adeshaha Prapnoti Tam Badhitva Adev Parasya Ityanena Adi Varnasya Sthane Adeshaha Vidhiyate. So Udaha Stha Stambhoho Purvasya would actually mean Stha Ityasya Sthane Purvasavarnaha Bhavati. The entire Stha will be replaced. That's the verbatim meaning of the Sutram. But how is to be interpreted? Adev Parasyatirena Adivarnasya Sthane eva atra Adeshaha Vidhiyate Ataha Uda Ityasmat Parasya Stha Tatha Stambha Ityetayoho Prathama Varnasya Ityukte Sakarasya Purvasavarnaha Ityukte Purvavarnasya Savarnaha Jayate. So the meaning Uda Upasargat Parasya Stha Nochet Stambha Ityasya Dhaturupasya Adisthasya Sakarasya Purvasavarnaha Bhavati. Somebody was telling me the other day that there are two sutrarthas that we always see in a slide. So you have a sutrartha that is written right below the sutra. It is in the white background. It is a little more convoluted. Whereas I usually write a sutrartha in simple Sanskrit with all sorts of elaborations that is given after the padacheda, anuvrutti, adhikara and so on. So the point is that the sutrartha that is written immediately below the sutram in the white background is the one that you must remember or memorize. It is the sutrartham which I have not created. It is the sutrartha created by scholars. It is directly coming from the commentaries, Kashika, Kaumudi, Laghu Kaumudi and so on. It is a little bit cryptic. It is short. It might not be immediately understandable, but that is the one that you have to memorize. If you want, you can also memorize the second one, but second one is for us to just understand, what the actual anuvrutti, adhikara and so on are collected together. How does the actual sutrartha unfold? So that's actually the second sutrartha. So if you want to memorize both, that's great. But if there is only one thing that you want to memorize, because for example, if you later on go ahead and actually talk with a pandit or something, and then if that person asks you what is the meaning of Udastha Stambha of Purvasya, say you are going for an interview for MA or whatever, and what is the artha, what is the meaning of Udastha Stambha of Purvasya, you are not supposed to say Uda Upasargat Parasya Stha Stambha Ityasya and so on. Even though that is correct, the precise artha that must come out of your mouth is Udaf Parayoho Stha Stambho Purvasavarna Syat Samhitayam. And Kaha Asya Arthaha iti prushte, then you can say this elaborate sutrartha. So that's the reason why two sutrarthas are given on the slide. Anyway, another important point over here to remember is that the sutra has dakara in it, udaha, because it talks about the upasarga uda, which is occurring in the list of 22 upasargas. But in the prakriya, you never see that dakara when you reach to this sutram, because there is a step of chartvam that happens before the current sutra, which converts dakara to takara, because we have a sakara next to it. Because the sutram is applicable only in the context of the plus sa, by looking at the sa, khari cha will force the chartvam on dakara and you will have takara. Doesn't really matter. The savarnas of dakara are same as savarnas of takara. But this is a minor bit in the prakriya that you should remember. So uda ityasya dakarasya adau khari cha ityanena chartve ityukte takaradeshe krute ततः पूर्व सवर्ण इत्युक्ते तकारस्य सवर्णः आदेशरूपेण विधीयते. Sadly, in all the Vyakhyanas, this bit, including Siddhanta Kaumudi, I think, this bit is missed out. And most of the commentaries will say Dakarasya Purva Savarna. Somewhere it is written in, it's clearly written in these, somewhere in the commentaries, that there is a Dakarasya Purva Savarna Bhavati. So Udaha Purva Savarnatvayin, I think in one of those commentaries, I found 2 or 3 places I found, even in Bala Manorama, which explains Siddhanta Kaumudi. Now I'm not able to fine. Look at this. Udaha dakarasya yaha savarnaha saha adeshaha syat. So sadly, this is technically not correct. It is not the dakara as a savarna, because dakara is not seen when the sutra is kicked in. It is takara, but this is a small harmless error. Dakarasya savarnaha bhavet, takarasya savarnaha bhavet. Eventually, it all leads to the same thing. So the question how to do the Purva Savarna Nirnaya Bhaya Prayatnanam Adharena Bhavati. I think this was one of the exercises in the class of Bhaya Prayatna. Sakarasya Bhaya Prayatnaha Vivarashvasa Aghosha Mahapranaha. You match for the Takarasya Savarnaha. So Purva Savarna is Takarasya Savarnaha. So Ta, Tha, Da, Dha, Na. And you see a match is for the Thakara. Thakara is also Vivarashvasa Aghosha Mahaprana. Therefore Vivarashvasa Aghosha Mahaprana Sakarasya Sthane तादृशः एव थकारः आदेशरूपेण विधीयते. Look at this. Atra aghoshasya sasya. This is a way commentary is right, so I wanted to show this. Atra aghoshasya sasya tadrishaha eva thakaraha. Kaha arthaha? This is a little hard to understand, or maybe not at the moment. But aghoshasya sakarasya means what? Vivarashvasa aghosha mahaprana sakarasya. तादृशः एव विवारश्वास अघोष महाप्राणः थकारः आदेशरूपेण विधीयते. So उत्थानम उत्थम्भनम, both examples we have seen earlier. There is one more line from Siddhanta Kaumudi that I want to discuss. Kaumudikara says lopa bhave thakarasya eva shravanam bhavati. So if you do not do the lopa by jharo jhari savarne, you have to say u followed by ta followed by 2 thakaras. So uttathanam. You cannot convert the middle thakara to takara again. So see, the configuration is ta, tha and tha. And at this point in time, one might say, let me apply kharicha on this middle takara, because there is a khar letter at the end. So khar is varga prathama, varga dvitiya and shashasa. So there is a varga dvitiya khar letter at the end. So let me change the thakara to takara. See, we did this yesterday. When we have a word called artha, we did a dvitvam. Refat parasya thakarasya dvitvam. Then we did tha, and then we applied kharicha to change the first thakara to takara. Can we do the same thing over here? The answer is no, because this middle thakara is generated by udastha stambho of purvasya, which is coming after chartva. So this thakara is asiddha towards kharicha. So kharicha is a previous sutram. Udastha stambho of purvasya is the later occurring sutram. The asiddhatva rule kicks in. Therefore, this thakara is not visible by kharicha, and that's what is explained by Kaumudi. Lopasya abhave थकारस्य एव श्रवणं भवति न तु खरिच इति चर्त्वं चर्त्वं प्रति थकारस्य असिद्धत्वात्. Any questions? So that completes Udastha Stambho Purvasya. Let's go to the next sutram. Vidyaji.
क्षम्यतां महोदय, तत्र उत्थानम् इति इत्यादिषु स्तोत्रेषु श्लोकेषु वर्तन्ते वा?
श्लोकेषु किम्?
उत्थानम् इत्यादि प्रयोगाः वर्तन्ते वा?
प्रायेण वर्तन्ते. इदानीम् उत्थित्वा इत्यादयः प्रयोगाः तु अवश्यमेव वर्तन्ते. उत्थाप्य, उत्थित्वा. So I mean, unless there were prayogas, he won't create sutras like this. Now I am not able to offhand recollect an example of a stotra where such a prayoga is there. Utthammanam, uttanam, but obviously the prayogas will be there. Otherwise, these kind of
नाम तत्र मात्रायाः तत्र भिन्नता वर्तते किल? अर्धमात्रा यावत् तत्र भिन्नता भवेत् किल महोदय? तत्र तत् कथं ज्ञायते साक्षात् श्लोकेन?
ardhamatra yavat bhinnata bhavati means what? I mean, suppose, I mean, if there is an extra thakara and there is an extra ardhamatra, tena kim bhavati?
तत् कथं ज्ञायते इति प्रश्नः.
उच्चारणेन ज्ञायते. यत्र यदा स्तोत्रस्य तस्य श्लोकस्य उच्चारणं क्रियते तदा केनचित् एकथकारात्मकम् उच्चारणं क्रियते, केनचित् द्विथकारात्मकम् उच्चारणं क्रियते. तत्र ज्ञातुं शक्यते यदा कीदृशम् उच्चारणमस्ति. I'm not able to understand what are you talking about, the change of chandas and so on, like the
आं महोदय, कथं ज्ञायते तत्र कथं
स्वरः
करणीयम् इति?
तत्र व्यञ्जनानां संख्यया छन्दसः निर्णयः न भवति. Guru Laghu is only for swaras. So if it is single, double, triple, 4 times, it doesn't really matter.
अस्तु धन्यवादः.
Okay, that was the question. Okay, fair. Any other question? In fact, these kind of double thakaras and so on that are appearing because of Dvitva also. So my observation is that in many stotras, and I think your observation will match, purely for giving stress on certain words, people prefer singing with Dvitva rather than singing without Dvitva. So whenever a Dvitva is possible, in order to purely give a stress on that letter, a form with Dvitva is explicitly chosen or preferred, and therefore the forms with Dvitva. So for example, Vartika, most of the Panditas you will see speaking that particular word as Vartika. Even in my classes, most of the time I'll end up speaking Vartika. Vartika, that's the double takara. Why? Because it's a style, it is a way of giving a stress on that particular word by forcefully speaking or uttering the double vyanjana that is possible because of one of the Dvitva sutras. Same thing you can see in these cases also. Agre gacchamaha agrimam sutram jhayohonyatarasyam jhayah parasya hasya. Haha means hasya. Shashti ekvachanam. Ha is the pratipadikam. Tasya shashti ekvachanam haha. Jhayohonyatarasyam jhayah parasya hasya Purvasavarna va syat. So that anyatarasyam is used for vikalpa. Purvasavarna va syat samhitayam jhayah haha anyatarasyam. So jhayah is panchami, jhayah parasya. Ha is the ha is prathama, sorry, shashti sthani hakarasya anyatarasam vikalpena purvasavarna bhavati. Now jhay is varga prathama, dvitiya, tritiya, chaturtha, but this is towards the end of Ashtadhyayi. Mostly Jashto has been done. So varga tritiyasya eva udaharanani labhyante. Hakarasya vikalpena purvasavarnadeshah bhavati. Ayam purvasavarnadeshapi bahya prayatnanam adhareण एव सिद्ध्यति. So hakara is samvaranada ghosha mahaprana. Varga chaturtha is a perfect match. Samvaranada ghosha mahaprana. अतः संवारनाद घोष महाप्राणस्य हकारस्य स्थाने तादृशः एव पूर्वसवर्णः इत्युक्ते वर्ग चतुर्थः आदेश रूपेण विधीयते. Examples: वाच plus hari. Vachah harihi, that's the samasa. So samasa, the first step I have not written, but vachaha plus harihi is the starting point. Vach plus hari, vak plus hari, just way vag, and then varga chaturthe vag plus ghari. Madhulid, the insect, honeybee. Madhulid hasati. Madhulid dhasati. H becomes a dh. Tad hitam, tadhitam. Anuштubh hi, anuштubh bhi, and so on. So you can take a look at the examples. I think this is one of the well-known sutras. You might find many examples in your introductory sandhi books as well. That's it. We are done with the Purvasavarna, Udastastambo Purvasya and Jayo Honyatarasyam. Any questions? Agre gachhamaha. The next one is also a very well-known sandhi, but it is a little complex. Students make mistakes, at least from my observation, get confused. So let's understand this. Hal sandau Chhatvam. The configuration that is needed for Chhatvam is this. You need a jhay letter. So that jhay is coming as an anuvritti from jhayo honyatarasyam. So jhay is varga prathama, varga dvitiya, varga tritiya, varga chaturtha. So you need a jhay letter, followed by you need a shakara, and then you need an atta letter. Atta is all swaras and ha ya va ta. So if you have this particular configuration, in this configuration, shakarasya vikalpena chakaradeshaha bhavati. Sh is converted to ch. This is called chatvam. Idam karyam chatvam iti namna jnayate. So jhay is varga prathama dvitiya tritiya chaturtha. At is swaraha and hayavara till hayavarat. So what are the examples? Surud plus shete. First you do shutvam. Suruj shete. Then you do chartvam. Suruch shete. At this particular point, you have a jhay letter, which is varga prathama. Then there is a chakara. And after that, there is a swara, which is in the atta pratyahara. So this combination is satisfied. Therefore, atra shakarasya chakaradeshah bhavati suruch chete pakshe suruch shete ityati bhavati. This particular sutra is optional. Madhulid shyenaha. Chartve madhulit shyenaha. Now I specifically picked this word shyenaha because now there is a varga prathama which is a jhay, followed by there is a shakara, followed by there is a yakara which is in the at pratyahara. So it need not be a swara, it can be a few vyanjanas as well. Ha, ya, va, ra, one of those. So madhulit plus shyenaha, madhulit shyenaha ityapi siddhyati. Next one, bhavan shete. We have seen this prakriya again and again and again. I am recollecting that prakriya specifically because the last step in that prakriya is chatvam. Remember this prakriya, we have seen that particular karika in while discussing this prakriya. 4 different forms are possible. Yachau, yachachaha, yachashaha, and yashau. So that ityadikam rupa chatushtayam bhavati. So that was the karika. So one of the forms or 2 of those 4 forms will involve chatvam. So you have bhavan plus shete. Optional tugagama shituk bhavan ta shete. Compulsory shutvam bhavan cha shete. Ta becoming cha because of the shakara. This shutvam triggers another shutvam na becoming ya because of the chakara. And in the configuration bhavai cha shete, you have shakara getting converted to chakara. Why? Because there is a jhaya letter followed by shakara followed by atta letter. So bhavai ch chete anena prakarena atra chatve krute antimam rupam siddhyati. सूत्रार्थ सो षष्ठोटि इति सूत्रमस्ति पदान्तात् झयः परस्य शकारस्य छः वा स्याद् विकल्पेन छकारादेशः भवति अटि संहितायाम् अट् वर्णे परे संहितायाः विषये शः छः अटि सी द विग्रह शः छः अटि शः इज षष्ठी छः इज प्रथमा. Only Vyakhyanas will tell us they look exactly identical. Shaha is Shashti because the Pratipadikam is the half Sh. Chaha is Prathama because the Pratipadikam is a full Ch. Panini has done that kind of leniency in order, whenever he wants to specify Prathama, he will put a full Pratipadika, full letter with the Swara as the Pratipadika. for uchcharana saulabhya. When he wants to give other vibhaktis where there will be swara in the vibhakti pratyaya, like shashti ekvachanasya pratyaya has a swara in it, then Panini prefers just the vyanjana as the pratipadikam so that the clean form may be generated. Otherwise, it will be shasya. So Gaurava will be there. So in order to avoid that, he will say shaha, where the pratipadika is the halanta sh, whereas for chaha, he will select the pratipadikam with an uchcharartha akara embedded in it. Chaha, shaha, sorry, shaha, chaha, ati. Padantasya iti anuvritti asti. Worth mentioning because for the previous ones we did not discuss about this particular anuvritti, but there is an anuvritti of padantasya, padantat iti viparinamyate 8459 इत्यस्मात् पदान्ता वा पदान्तस्य इति सूत्रमस्ति अस्मात् पदान्तस्य इत्यस्य अनुवृत्ति comes अनुवृत्ति or मंडूकप्लुति whatever you want to take comes to षष्ठोटी पदान्तस्य इत्यस्य अनुवृत्तिः it changes to padantat. So padantat iti viparanyamyate jhayaha iti jhayohonyatarasyaam ityasmat svikriyate. So jhayaha is panchami. That's why that padantasya becomes padantat because it has to be connected with jhayaha. Sanhitayam is the adhikara. So padantad jhayaha shaha shakarasya atvarne pare samhitayam vikalpena chakaradeshaha bhavati. So padanta jhayavarnat parasya shakarasya atvarne pare vikalpena chakaradeshaha bhavati surudshete vachaha shuddhihi. You can go through the examples. There is nothing new over here. Is the simple, for example, ch plus sh, there is the shakara getting converted to chakara, or g plus sh, k plus sh, there is again the shakara getting converted to chakara. Now, associated with this sutram is a Vartikam, and that needs to be studied. It's one of the fundamental Vartikas. It says, Chhatvam ami iti vachyam. So, the sutra is Shashchoti. Ati is the word used in the sutram. What the Vartika says? Idam Chhatvam ati ityeva nasti parantu ami ityasmin vishaye api bhavati. At is a small pratyahara. Hayavarata. Ama is a bigger pratyahara. Lana nyamangana nama. So the lakara and the varga panchamas are included. So sutre at varne pare iti yaduktam asti tasya sthane am varne pare iti vaktavyam. What is the extra stuff? Lakara and varga panchama. So where is this at coming? It is coming after shakara. So shakaradanantaram swaraha asti tasya udaharanam asmabhi drishtam. Shakaradanantaram yakaraha asti tasya udaharanam api asmabhi drishtam shyenaha. So that was the part of at. But then shakaradanantaram lakaraha api anumanyate shlokaha. So shla is now an acceptable combination. Shakaradanantaram varga panchamaha api anumanyate. Shmashanam or shmashruhu, better word, shmashruhu, beer. So that's now an acceptable example. So in this particular way, the varga panchamas and the lakara after the shakara are now allowed, therefore are seen in the Chatva Prakaranam, and therefore Vartikakara has said Chatvam ami iti vachyam. So let's take one example of shlokaha and one example of what shmashruhu. So tad plus shlokaha. First you do the shchutvam, taj plus shlokaha. Then you do the chartvam, tach plus shlokaha. At this particular point in time, you have jhaya letter, you have shakara, and you have letter. Shakara optionally gets converted to chakara, tach ch lokaha. Similarly, tad shmashruhu, beard, tad shmashruhu, taj shmashruhu, tach shmashruhu. You have jhaya followed by shakara followed by varga panchama, tach ch mashruhu. Anena prakarena atra rupam siddhyati. Let's do the dalakrutyam. I am not doing dalakrutyam for every sutram. Technically, you should be doing it. So when you're studying the sutram on your own, try to do dalakrutyam on your own. I am only giving dalakrutyas where there are a little bit of explanation required or complex things are there. So those kind of things only I will deal with dalakrutyam. Otherwise, simple sutras I am going to ignore. So dalakrutyam over here, jhayah parasya iti kimartham. Why the purva letter must be varga prathama dvitiya tritiya chaturtha? Varga panchamaha asti chet tatra na bhavati. So sugana plashyete ityatra तुगागमस्य अभाव पक्षे शकारस्य छत्वं न भवति। ङ्णोः कुक्तुक्षरी इत्यनेन अत्र यदि टुगागमः भवति तर्हि तत्र अग्रे छत्वं भवितुमर्हति, परन्तु टुगागमस्य अभाव पक्षे अत्र शकारस्य छत्वं न भवति, बिकॉज ण इज नॉट इन द झय प्रत्याहार। छत्वम अमी इति वाच्यम। अमी इति किमर्थम? So you have expanded the atta pratyahara to ama, but why stop at ama? Why not go beyond that? So there are some letters after ama which might appear after shakara. So not every letter will start appearing, but some examples will be there. For example, shotati is a verb form. It has a shakara and a chakara. Now chakara is not in the ama pratyahara. अस्यां स्थितौ अत्र शकारस्य छत्वं न भवति। सो तत प्लस च्योतति इत्यस्य विषये इदं सूत्रं न प्रवर्तते। The next point is also interesting. Padantat iti kimartham. Why are we using the word padantat? And the explanation is a little bit convoluted. That is the reason why this dalakrutyam is actually being discussed. सो अपदांत झय वर्णः अस्ति तर्हि तत्र तस्मात् परस्य शकारस्य छत्वं न भवति। सो पदांत झय वर्णः अस्ति चेत् भवति। In all the examples that we have seen on the previous slide, tada is a pada, tada is a pada because it is inside a samasa, or here also surud, vachaha, vach, all these are padas. So padasya sambandheन एव उदाहरणानि अस्माभिः दृष्टानि। इदानीम् अपदान्त पदान्तात् इति किमर्थम् उक्तम्? अपदान्त झयवर्णः अस्ति चेत् तत्र छत्वं न भवति। यथा विरप्शम् इति कश्चन शब्दः अस्ति। Now don't ask me the meaning, I did not look it up and I don't know. विरप्शम् इति कश्चन क्रिप्टिक् वियर्ड शब्दः अस्ति। अस्मिन् शब्दे किमस्ति? पकारः अस्ति। पकारादनन्तरं शकारः अस्ति। शकारादनन्तरम् अकारः अस्ति। So you have a jhay letter, you have shakara, and then you have an atta letter or ama letter, whatever, but still shakara is not getting converted to chakara because this pa is not at end of the pada. So padantat jhayaha, it is not at the end of the pada. So virapsham इत्यत्र अस्य सूत्रस्य प्रयोगः न भवति। अपदान्त पकारात् परस्य शकारस्य छत्वं मा भूत्, टाइपिंग मिस्टेक, नॉट भवति, मा भूत्, न भवेत्। सो विरप्शम इत्यत्र अस्य सूत्रस्य प्रयोगः न भवेत्। लेट मी फिक्स इट, दिस बिग टाइपोज आई शुड इमीडिएटली, छत्वं मा भूत्। सो दिस विरप्शम इत्यादिषु शब्देषु छत्वं न भवेत्। Now the fun thing is, why I am so much ignorant about this word called virapsham? The answer is virapsham ityadayah shabdaha vaidikaha. Somewhere in some Veda this word was found. अपादान्त झय वर्णाद् अनन्तरं शकारः केवलं वैदिक प्रयोगेषु एव दृश्यते. So you do not see these kind of apadanta jhaya followed by shakara in the normal spoken Sanskrit. अपादान्त झय वर्णात् अनन्तरं विद्यमानः शकारः केवलं वैदिक प्रयोगेषु एव दृश्यते। लौकिक प्रयोगे नित्यं पदान्तात् एव अस्ति। So this padantat visheshana that has been added in the sutrartha is only to be fully inclusive of Vaidika plus Laukika Samskritam. यदि केवलं लौकिक संस्कृतस्य संदर्भेण एव नियमः वक्तव्यः तर्हि झयः परस्य इति उच्यते चेदपि दोषः नास्ति। किमर्थं? लौकिक संस्कृते झयः इत्युक्ते पदान्तात् झयः, अपदान्तात् झयः परस्य शकारः तत्र लौकिक संस्कृते न संभवति। So for Laukika Samskrita, Artha is easy, Jhayaha Parasya. But in order to have this all-inclusive rule also for the Vaidika Samskritam, the Padantat word is added. Added by whom? Not by Panini. There is no direct Padantat word in the Sutram. It is added by Siddhanta Kaumadikara in the commentary. The problem is, or the weird fact is that there is a rule, there is a paribhasha in the Vyakarana Shastra which says Sarve vidhayah chandasi vikalpyante. It's a very strong paribhasha. What this paribhasha says is that Ashtadhyayi has around 4,000 rules, 4,000 niyamas. All 4,000 rules are optional when it comes to Vaidika forms. Not in the Laukika Sanskritam. In Laukika Sanskritam, most of the rules are compulsory except Va Vibhasha Anyatarasyam, those are optional. But in Vaidika Sanskritam, all rules are optional. Sarve vidhayah chandasi vikalpyante. Now, why such a cryptic rule? The reason is that Vaidika Shabdaha Purvameva Rachitaha. You cannot create your own words now. There is a finite set of all the words, combine the words from Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, all branches, and there is a finite set of words. So, in order to derive those finite set of words, sometimes a rule is to be used, sometimes a rule is not to be used. You do whatever you want but derive that word. Panini's sutra may be wrong, but that word cannot be wrong because it is a word from the Veda. Therefore, this is a kind of exit that Panini rachitani sutrani sarvani api tatra vikalpena prayuktum shakyani. So, if a certain sutra is required for justifying a Vaidika form, use it. If it is not required or if it is causing a problem, don't use it. So, that's basically sarve vidhaya chandasi vikalpyanti. Now, when we have such a strong rule, sarve vidhaya chandasi vikalpyante, does it really matter if you use the word padantat? Because if there is the jhayaha parasya shasya chovasya, that is samhitayam, this particular rule itself can be killed out in order to justify virapsham. So, in order to justify virapsham, you simply say it is a Vaidika word, sarve vidhaya chandasi vikalpyante. So, for the justification or derivation of the word virapsham, I will not use Shashchoti. And if you don't use Shashchoti, there is no question of Shakara getting converted to Chakara. Therefore, Sarve Vidhaya Chandasi Vikalpyante iti sutrena, iti niyamena, ityanaya paribhashaya, Ashtadhyayaha sarvepi niyamaha Vaidika prayoganam vishay vikalpena eva pravartante. Ataha asmin sutre padantasya ityasya anuvrittihi na kriyate chedapi doshaha nasti. And therefore, if you go to the commentaries, look at Siddhanta Kaumudi. Siddhanta Kaumudikara has an anuvritti of padantat. Look at Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi. Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudikara does not have anuvritti of padantat. Look at Kashika. Kashika clearly says Jhaya iti vartate, anyatarasyam iti vartate. It doesn't talk about padantat. So Jhayaha uttarasya, not padantat Jhayaha uttarasya. So Kashika and Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi take a more logical or sensible approach and they say padantat ityasya avashyakata nasti. परंतु सिद्धांत कौमुदीकारेण अत्र पदान्तात् इति शब्दः स्थापितः अस्ति किमर्थं विरप्शम इति शब्दस्य सिद्ध्यर्थम. So I think in Siddhanta Kaumudi he will explicitly say I am adding this padantat. Where is that? In one of the commentaries, I think somewhere. Let's see. From where did I find this word? Probably in one of the commentaries. So he says padantat, he doesn't give the example of virapsham. Probably it's taken from one of the Tattva Bodhiyan or something. So anyway, so Siddhanta Kaumudikara says padantat, but there is no need of padantat over here. That completes the discussion of Chhatvam. Any questions? So we are done with the sutras. We are done with Udastha Purvasya Jhayo Honyatarasam Shashchoti. Two sutras are remaining. Halo Yamam Yami Lopaha and Jharo jhari savarne. Any questions? Ratnakar Mahoday.
Namaskar, Acharya. Mama Dhvani Shruyate va? The thing is, Sarve Vidya Chandasi. That is Vikalpe, that is what it means, no?
Correct.
So normally they recite Veda with Anudatta, Udatta and Swaritas. Does that mean that one can recite the Veda or read the Veda like without any Anudatta, Udatta, Swarita?
No, it doesn't mean that because Sarve Vidhayaha means rules of Ashtadhyayi, Vikalpyante doesn't mean you are free to use the way you want. It means they should be used in exactly that way which will derive the words in the Veda. So if a certain Veda, a word in a Veda has a certain Udatta Swara, you have to pronounce it with that Udatta Swara and bend the rules so that the corresponding Swara may be generated as Udatta using Ashtadhyayi Sutras. Clear?
Will you please come again?
What I'm saying is, if there is a word, say for example, let's take this word called Virapsham. Let's assume, I don't know, but I'm just hypothesizing. Let's assume that there is the R, which is a Swarita. So you add a vertical line on that. The point is, Virapsham with a Swarita Repha is a valid word. So you have to pronounce it that way, because Vedas have been written, you cannot make even a single letter change. What you have to do is you have to try deriving Virapsham with a Swarita Refa using sutras of Ashtadhyayi. If you cannot do by normal methods, you can ignore some sutras or you can use some sutras in a twisted manner, but you have to derive what is given in the Vedas. That is the meaning of Sarve Vidhaya Chandase Vikalpini.
Fine, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, then I have a few questions. So now only two sutras are remaining and we are done with Hal Sandhi Prakaranam. Next week will be Visarga Sandhi and the Refa Deshaha. So we have two sutras, Halo Yamam Yamilopaha and Jharo Jhari Savarne. Both these sutras are about lopa, and it is without any problem or without any doubt the last operation in any prakriya. Because after 8455 there are udatta, dudatta, swaritaha and so on. So there are udatta, anudatta related sutras. There is no halsandhi related sutram. So the last sutram in any prakriya, if it reaches till this point, is definitely this lopaha given by halo yamam yami lopaha jharo jhari savarne. Now I have been talking or teaching these sutras all along. I want you to teach these sutras in the class. So the sutram is very simple. Halo yamam yami lopaha. Take your time, take 2 minutes. Halaha parasya yamaha lopaha syadva yami samhitayam. Explain in simple language. You have to explain like I explained. Padacheda, Anuvritti, Adhikara and so on. At least let's start with Padacheda. I will help you with Anuvritti, Adhikara and so on. And Sutrartha you should be able to explain. Any takers? I can wait for a few minutes if people are trying out their hands on paper. Okay, we have one hand raised. I'm going to wait for at least a few people. I want somebody who never speaks in the class. Because there are people who regularly, very few people who regularly talk, and then there are people who never talk. If someone who never speaks raises their hand, I'll let them speak. Only two hands raised is actually very simple sutram. Halaha yamam yami lopaha. You should be able to explain this particular sutram on your own. There is only simple Panchami, simple Shashti, simple Saptami. There is nothing, and Prathama. Very simple. Okay, Purnima ji, you want to try?
Namaskaram, Mahodaya. Yeah, I want to try. Sutra says, Sutram asti, halo yamam yami lopaha. Padachhedaha halaha yamam yami lopaha. हलः इति अत्र पञ्चम्यर्थे हलात् इत्यर्थे वक्तुं शक्यते हल् वर्णात् हल् वर्णात् क्षम्यताम् हल् वर्णात्
हलः परस्य इति वदामः
आम् आम् हलः परस्य यदि यम् वर्णः अस्ति चेत् यम् वर्णः इत्युक्ते अन्तस्थाः अनुनासिकाः वर्गपञ्चमाः अस्ति चेत् यमि यम् अग्रे अस्ति चेत् यम् वर्णः अस्ति अग्रे अस्ति चेत् लोपः भवति तस्य लोपः विकल्पेन भवति इति
कस्य लोपः भवति अत्र द्विवारं यम् अस्ति कस्य लोपः विकल्पेन भवति
कस्य इत्युक्ते अत्र विधिः
हल् अस्ति हल् अस्ति
हा,
हलः परस्य तदनन्तरं
हम्म,
यम् अस्ति तदनन्तरं पुनः यम् अस्ति सो यू हैव थ्री
हम्म,
एंटिटीज लोपः
हा,
कस्य लोपः
हा, षष्ठन्तं यमाम् इति अस्ति तस्य
आउट
तत्
ऑफ दीज
स्थानी भवति
so out of these three कस्य लोपः भवति
यम् इत्यस्य
there are two yams कस्य
यम
लोपः
यमां षष्ठन्तं षष्ठी बहुवचन
correct
अस्ति
but in
तस्य
this configuration which yam is removed this middle yam is removed or the last
आदौ
one is removed
प्रथमः यम्
अयम् अस्य यम वर्णस्य लोपः भवति कदा भवति यम वर्णः अग्रे अस्ति चेत् भवति correct
आम्
now wait let's explain the next line so what is the anuvrutti
अन्यतरस्यां
coming from
विकल्पेन
where
भवति इति
coming from where
कमिङ्ग् फ्रम्
झयोः
846
झयोः
आम्
अन्यतरस्य अधिकारः
संहितायां संहितायाः विवक्षायाम् एव
correct
आम् अनुवृत्तिसहितं सूत्रं हलः यमां यमि अन्यतरस्यां लोपः
and one more word is missing what word is missing
संहितायां
संहितायाम correct okay सूत्रार्थ read and explain
हा हल् वर्णात् परस्य यम् वर्णस्य तस्मिन्नेव
this is an important point it comes from the commentaries all that we are saying is there is a yam letter and there is another yam letter that's not the intended meaning there is a yatha sankhyatvam that kicks in therefore yam varnasya tasmin eva yam varne pare you cannot randomly combine two yam varnas yam varnasya tasmin eva yam varne pare continue
यम् वर्णे परे विकल्पेन लोपः भवति यम् प्रत्याहारे अन्तस्थाः पञ्चम वर्गपञ्चमाः हयवरट् इत्यत्र यवर्णात् यवर्णः तस्मात् अनन्तरं यमगणनं तस्य अन्तमकारः तत्पर्यन्तम्
correct next slide
अत्र यमात् तथा यमि इत्येतयोः मध्ये यथासङ्ख्यत्वं स्वीकरणीयम् यथासङ्ख्य मैपिंग वन ऑन वन मैपिंग
one
happens
on one
here
mapping so yam ityasya yam varne pare lopah bhavati I'll take the example because example is a little new thank you very much very well explained so asye bhavaha asya means mouth asye bhavaha the one that is in the mouth asye bhavaha ityasmin arthe asya iti shabdat yat iti tadhita pratyayah bhavati so there is a tadhita pratyay that is attached to the asya word आस्य प्लस य यत इत्यत्र तकारस्य इत्संज्ञा लोपः आस्य प्लस य इति स्थिते कथंचित् केनचित् सूत्रेण यकारोत्तरस्य अकारस्य लोपः भवति सो यू हैव आस्य विद हाफ यकार एंड यू हैव यकार सो आस्य 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 combining you get a double yakar as ya what is the structure you have a hal letter then you have a yam letter and then you have the same yam letter asyam sthitau halo yamam yami lopaha इत्यनेन यकारस्य मध्यम यकारस्य नो चेत् प्रथम यकारस्य लोपे कृते आस्य इति सिद्ध्यति so mukhe yad vidyate tad asya ityeva same word with a different meaning so asye bhavaha asyaha I think this is there in did we discuss this in tulyasya prayatnam savarnam because this asya word is there in tulyasya prayatnam savarnam one of the commentaries talks about this asye bhava asyam and so now I so many commentaries I've read that I don't remember which commentary kashika look at this asye bhavam asyam this is what is being derived asye bhavam asyam so that's what is being derived over here and obviously this is optional pakshe asyaha with the double yakara is also sadhu Ratnakarji
So, Chari, maybe very simple this thing. So here, the second M letter is also a nimittam. First one is hal letter, and the second M letter is second two also paranimittam. Is that
Correct.
so?
That is correct. One is purvanimittam, one is paranimittam, and the yama is sandwiched between the two. That is correct.
Okay. Fine, thank you.
Very good. I'm very happy that you're able to make out the meanings properly. This is an inspiration for me. I'll ask more and more such sutras to you all going ahead. Now, this yatha sankhyatvam is being explained in Siddhanta Kaumudi. Yamam yami iti yatha sankhya vidnyanat na iha mahatmyam. If you look at the word called mahatmyam, mahatvasya bhavaha mahat what mahattasya bhav what is mahatmyam kasya bhavaha? Let's try seeing this. This will keep me awake. Mahatmya. Mahatmanaha bhavaha iti mahatmyam. So mahatmata is mahatmyam. Mahatmanaha bhavaha iti maha. Somebody is saying mahatmata. So mahatmata is the same as mahatmyam. Either it is the ta or it is the ya. But what is the breakup? This is a tadhita vritti. Mahatmanaha bhava, being great. So that's mahatmyam. What is happening in mahatmyam? There is a ta, there is a ma, and there is a ya. So there is a hal letter, there is a yam letter, and there is technically another yam letter. So if you just on the face of it, you see halo yamam yami lopa, the middle ma might go away. But that doesn't happen because you have yatha sankhyatvam. Ma can be removed only in front of ma. Ya can be removed only when there is ya. Ma and ya combination is not allowed. Yatha sankhyatvam. So same letter. Tasmin eva yam varne pare. So yamam yami iti yatha sankhya vidnyanat na iha mahatmyam iti kaumudi karena spashti kriyate. So that completes halo yamam yami lopaha, the last sutram of the hal sandhi prakaranam, jharo jhari savarne. That is also a sutram for the lopa, jharo jhari savarne. Any takers? Somebody completely new, not those who keep on asking doubts. Same familiar names are raising hands. I don't want. Srinivas Mahoday.
नमस्ते महोदय।
नमस्ते।
पदच्छेदः झरः झरि सवर्णे इति। झरः तत्र षष्ठी एकवचनं, झरि इति सप्तमी एकवचनं, सवर्णे इति सप्तमी एकवचनं।
अनुवृत्ति, the typing mistake, अनुवृत्ति।
अनुवृत्ति हलः इति कस्मात् सूत्रात् इति?
हलो यमाम, we just saw it, हलो यमाम यमि लोपः।
लोपः अपि
तस्मादेव
अन्यतरस्यां
झयोः अन्यतरस्यां।
अस्तु।
That's okay. Slowly it will come. Adhikara is
संहितायां
same thing. Now read this one.
अनुवृत्ति अधिकारसहितं सूत्रं हलः झरः सवर्णे झरि अन्यतरस्यां लोपः। हलः परस्य।
This is panchami. You have to say this. हलः इति पंचमी।
हलः इति पंचमी, झरः इति तत्र षष्ठी एकवचनं, स्थानी अस्ति।
स्थानी अस्ति।
सवर्णे यदि झरि अस्ति तर्हि
सप्तमी। सवर्णे झरि इति परनिमित्तं।
सवर्णे झरि इति परनिमित्तं।
So you have hal iti purva nimittam, panchami, jhar iti sthani, and savarna jhar is the paranimittam. So see, one comment. In the previous sutram, it was very stringent, very more restricted. Tasmin eva yam varne pare. Idanim atra tasmin eva jhar varne pare iti nasti, savarne jhar varne pare. So a different varna is also acceptable as long as it is savarna. So hal plus jhara plus savarna jhara. इति स्थिते किं भवति? अग्रे उच्यताम्।
विकल्पेन लोपः।
कस्य लोपः?
प्रथम झर्वर्णस्य
प्रथम झर्वर्णस्य सवर्णे झर्वर्णे परे विकल्पेन लोपः भवति. So read the sutra.
हल् वर्णात् परस्य झर्वर्णस्य सवर्णे झर्वर्णे परे विकल्पेन लोपः भवति.
Correct. What is jhar? Now that's the new pratyahara. What is a jhar?
जबै घडदश जबगडदश कपै शससर्. तर्हि वर्गीय अनुनासिक व्यञ्जनानि विहाय वर्ग प्रथम द्वितीय तृतीय चतुर्थ व्यञ्जनानि अपि च उष्माणः.
Not all ushmanas. Some
शशस हकारः हकारं विहाय शशस.
वर्ग चतुर्थाः वर्ग तृतीयाः वर्ग द्वितीयाः वर्ग प्रथमाः plus sh s. Now example, try to explain the example also. It's written over here. You have to read, understand in the runtime and explain it to the class.
अस्तु. तर्हि कृष्णस्य ऋद्धिः इत्यत्र समासे गुणैकादेशे कृते कृष्णर्धिः इति स्थिते तत्र अकारोत्तर ऋकारः अस्ति. तर्हि तत्र गुणैकादेशः भवति. अर्वर्णः आगच्छति. तर्हि कृष्णस्य
अ प्लस रु अत्र गुणैकादेशः भवति. ऋकारस्य स्थाने किम् आगच्छति? तत् उभयोः स्थाने किम् आगच्छति? एकादेशः अस्ति. उभयोः स्थाने
अर् इति आगच्छति.
From where does r come?
उरण्डपः.
Urandraparah. Why is a selected? What are the candidates?
अदेङ्गुण अ ए ओ.
Why is a selected? Why not a and o?
तत्र रेफः अस्ति. तस्य सवर्णः ऋकारः. अतः ऋकारस्य सवर्णः रेफः. अतः
रेफः नास्ति. ऋकारस्य यद् उच्चारणस्थानं तदेव उच्चारणस्थानं रेफस्य and akarasya यद् उच्चारणस्थानं तदेव उच्चारणस्थानं अकारस्य. So you have a one-to-one mapping. So ar iti bhavati. Atah Krishna. So see, there is one more step missing. Krishnasya ruddhihi ityatra samase Krishna plus ruddhi iti sthite krishnardhi iti guna ekadeshena siddhyati. Now once that krishnardhi is generated, let me write down that sanyoga. So krishnardhi. So this is the combination krishnardhi. Now what happens here?
रेफात् परस्य दकारस्य सवर्णे धकारे परे विकल्पेन लोपे कृते कृष्णर्धि इति सिद्ध्यति. तर्हि तत्र दकारः रेफः अस्ति. अनन्तरं दकारः अस्ति. अनन्तरं
रेफः maps to, see, रेफः maps to which part of the sutra? Halvarna. Dakara maps to which part of the sutram? Jharvarna. And the next Dakara maps to Savarna Jhar. Therefore, the condition is satisfied. Therefore, Madhyama Dakarasya lope krute Krishnardhi iti sthidhyati pakshe lopam vina Krishnardhi ityapi sadhu. And then next example also you should be able to explain. We just looked at it 5 minutes ago. So go ahead.
अस्तु. उत् योगस्तम्भनम् इत्यत्र उधस्थास्तम्भोः पूर्वस्य इत्यनेन पूर्वसवर्णादेशे कृते उत्थम्बनम् इति स्थिते
So you have a, then you have a th and then you have a ta.
तर्हि त इति हल्वर्णः, थ इति झर्वर्णः, तकारः इति पुनः झर्वर्णः. मध्ये स्थिते तकारस्य विकल्पेन लोपः भवति. तर्हि
प्लस त उत्तम्भनम् इति सिद्ध्यति पक्षे उत्तम्भनम्. Very nice, excellent. So this way you have taught Jhalo yamam yami lopaha and Jharo jhari savarne. 2-3 more slides are there. Now what happens is we learned Dvitvam. Dvitvam causes a doubling. It is the same letter that is being doubled. So observe that Halo yamam yami lopaha requires the same yam letter one after the other, and then the middle yam is deleted. Jharo jhari savarne, it requires the savarna, so same is also qualified. So the middle jharvarna will be removed. So yada yada dvitvam kriyate, and dvitva is a purva step. It comes in a previous step before the lopa step. So yada yada dvitvam bhavati tada tada dvitvadanantaram punah lopah sambhavati. This is how these things are structured. So achorahabhyam dve tatha anachi cha ityetabhyam sutrabhyam varnasya dvitve krute ततः पुनः कृतद्वित्वाभ्याम एकस्य हलो यमाम्यमि लोपः नो चेत् झरो झरि सवर्णे इत्यनेन लोपः अपि भवति एतादृशे लोपे कृते मूलः शब्दः सिद्ध्यति. So whatever original word you did a dvitva, whatever was the replication, it was removed and you go back to the original word. So durlabhah इत्यत्र अचोरहाभ्याम द्वे इति द्वित्वे कृते र प्लस ल अचोरहाभ्याम द्वे अच्वर्णात् परस्य रेफात् परस्य लकारस्य द्वित्वे कृते durlabh. So you now have a hal letter followed by yam letter followed by yam letter. Halo yamam yami lopaha. The middle is removed. You get back durlabh. So whatever money you have withdrawn, all is expended, gone. Similarly, siddhihi anachicha iti dvitve krute siddha the dha. You now have a dakara and dhakara. This dakara is removed. You get back siddhi. Sometimes remember that after dvitva, you can do chartva or jashtva. We have seen the examples yesterday. So kutrachit द्वित्वादनन्तरं डायरेक्ट लोपः न भवति अपितु मध्ये चर्त्वं नो चेत् जस्त्वं कृत्वा ततः लोपः भवति. सो गर्भी प्लस अयम् इत्यत्र यणादेशे कृते गर्भ्ययम्. सो गर्भ्ययम् इत्यस्यां स्थितौ भकारस्य द्वित्वे कृते भकारस्य द्वित्वे कृते बिकॉज अचोरहाभ्याम द्वे विल फोर्स अ द्वित्वम ऑन भकार. So bhakarasya dvitve krute garbhyam, sorry, garbhyayam ityatra. Now you have bha plus bha, jhalam jash jhashi, apadanta jashtva will happen. This bha will be converted to ba. So you have ra, ba, bha, ya. So garbhyayam. Asyam sthitau you have ra, ba, bha and ya. झरो झरि सवर्णे हल वर्णात् परस्य झर वर्णस्य सवर्णे झर वर्णे परे विकल्पेन लोपः भवति. That b is gone, giving you back garbhyayam. Whatever was the result of yana sandhi, you get back the same. Similar examples can be given for chartvam also. Arthi plus ayam, arthyayam. थकारस्य द्वित्वे कृते अर्थथययम्. खरि चैति थकारस्य चर्त्वे तकारः arthayam. And then झरो झरि सवर्णे. So what is the structure now? You have r, you have t and you have th. The t can be removed, giving back arthyayam. So many times, in almost all cases, after doing a dvitva, you will end up with again an optional lopa. Dvitva is also optional, lopa is also optional. Parantu एतादृशानां रूपाणां सिद्ध्यर्थम एतयोः सूत्रयोः रचना कृता नास्ति. So just because you are able to go back to the previous state doesn't mean that is a valid example of these sutras. So एतादृशानां रूपाणां सिद्ध्यर्थम हलो यमाम यमि लोपः नो चेत् झरो झरि सवर्णे इत्येते सूत्रे रचिते न स्तः. And therefore the correct examples, you should never give examples for these sutras which will involve a doubling and then removal of that doubled letter. Therefore, we were very cautious. We took an example of Krishnardhi where there was no doubling but lopa. Utthambanam, no doubling plus lopaha. In the same way for the halo yamamyami lopaha, asye bhava. So there was no doubling but there was lopaha. Those kind of examples have to be given. Any questions so far? One last slide and we are done. No questions. So let's go to the last slide. Look at the sutras. Halo yamam yami lopaha. Hal plus yama plus savarnaha yama. Same yama means savarnaha yama because there are no other savarnas of yama inside them. So hal plus yama plus savarnaha yama. That causes the lopa of yama. That's your first sutra. Jharo jhari savarne. Hal plus jhar plus savarnaha jhar. Jhar varnasya lopaha bhavati. Very similar looking sutras, only the nimitta, the paranimitta and the sthani is different. The structure of the sutras is the same. Now look at the pratyaharas. What is yama? It starts from ha, yayper, ta, lan, yamangana, nam. And then the next word is jhabhai. So as soon as the yam pratyahara ends, the jhar pratyahara starts. So instead of creating a single sutram which involves the entire yara pratyahara, Panini Maharshi broke it down and he created two identical looking sutras, one for yama pratyahara, one for jhara pratyahara. So understand the situation. There is a yama pratyahara, there is a jhara pratyahara. Yama plus jhara is yara. So dvayoho पृथक् सूत्रयोः स्थाने तौ एकत्रीकृत्य halo yaram yari savarne lopaha. So you create a single sutram. Instead of yamam and yami, you combine yama with jhara. Haro, halo, yaram yari savarne lopaha. Iti ekam eva sutram kimartham na krutam. Anybody who wants to give answer? Vidyaji, you want to try? You are writing something over here. If you can speak, you can raise your hand. Tell me.
तथा कृतं चेत् तत्र यम् इति द्विवारम् आगच्छति यथासङ्ख्यम् इति न वक्तुं शक्नुमः.
हाँ, यथासंख्यम माभूत. Why? Because now you have yaram yari savarne. So what is the problem?
यम् exact match आवश्यकं किल महोदय तत्र.
See, what is inside yam? Ya, va, ra, la and varga panchamas.
अस्तु तत्र
Ya and so on. Exact match will map ya to ya, va to va, ra to la to la. Correct? Savarna will also map the same thing. Ya to ya, va to va, ra to, because ya doesn't have a savarna anywhere else. Ya to ya, va to va, ra to la to la. So exact match and savarna are same as far as the halo, yamam, yami, lopa is concerned. You get what I'm saying? Or no?
आम् अस्ति तत्तु अस्ति महोदय तत्र परन्तु
That's okay. So see, I understand you have an objection on savarna yama because you want an exact match. What I am saying is for yama pratyahara, savarna and exact doesn't matter. They are same. You get what I am saying?
अवगच्छामि महोदय तत्र परन्तु तत्र किमस्ति तत्र तस्य अनुस्वारः अन्यस्य
अनुनासिकम् अनुनासिकः तस्य किमस्ति अनुनासिकभेदस्य सम्बन्धेन these kind of examples you don't see anunasika and so on, right? For example, there will be a anunasika and so on, they are created all together at a different place and they are not at all anywhere irrelevant over here. Anunasika are usually created only for the last letter of the last swara. So even for the anunasika yakara and so anunasika yam letter and so on, there are no sutras other than what anuswarasya parasavarna vapadantasya. And for anuswarasya parasavarna, there were no examples. We talked about that. There are no examples of antasthas. So that is not a concern. That's okay. This is a good try. Anybody else who wants to take a guess? So there are two ways. You can say, fair enough, Panini made a mistake. That's perfectly okay in my class to say Panini made a mistake. I always say this. I always say this because my teachers taught me like that. They always used to say, don't blindly believe. If you think he made a mistake, say, but be sure with the reasoning. So you can say, well, there is a scope for optimization and you can combine this. Or you can say, no, there is a reason. Reshma ji.
I think if it is yari, then the jhar varna like say pa varga varna, pa pha ba ma. So yam has a ma and jhar has a pa. Then they both will be savarna of each other. And then that is not expected.
Excellent. Understood the argument what she is saying? Understand that yama mapping to yama is the scope of the first sutram. Jhara mapping to jhara is in the scope of the second sutram. If you combine the two sutras, Yama will map to jhara. That is what we don't want. And the example she gave was ta, tha, da, dha, na. Ta is in the jhara. Na is in the yama, and they are savarnas. Therefore, if you combine yama and jhara together to form a yara, and you still retain the condition of savarne, savarne lopaha, then nakara and takara might be treated as savarna, and then na might be removed in presence of ta, which is not what we want. We only want yama to be removed by yama and jhara to be removed by jhara, not a cross connection. So yam varnasya kevalam savarne yam varne pare eva lopaha ishyate, savarne jhar varne pare na. And the example is sharangam. Sha, ra, nga, ga, and then further things. So ngakaraha and gakara, ka, ka, ga, ga, nga, ka vargasya varna dvayam atra vidyate. Now what is happening? There is a hal letter, then there is a yama letter, and then there is a jhara letter. Halo yamam yami lopaha cannot do a lop over here. Jharo jhari savarne cannot do a lop over here. But if you combine the two sutras and by mistake if you do halo yaram yari savarne lopaha, then yara will be kicked because of another yara causing a problem. So halo yamam yami lopa इत्यनेन ngकारस्य लोपः न संभवति. यदि हरो यराव्यरि सवर्णे लोपः इति सूत्रं क्रियते तर्हि ngकारस्य सवर्णे गकारे परे लोपः संभवेत्. And similarly, other type of example also you can give. Murdhni, ra, dha, na, murdhni. Jharo jhari savarne cannot kick off the middle dhakara, because even though that dhakara is jhara, na is not jhara. Similarly, halo yamam yami lopaha cannot be used because dha is not yam. But when you combine the two sutras, it's written over here, झरो झरि सवर्ण इत्यनेन लोपः न संभवति, परंतु हलो यराम्यरि सवर्णे लोपः इति सूत्रं यदि क्रियते तर्हि धकारस्य सवर्णे नकारे परे अनिष्टः लोपः संभवेत्. And therefore, every now and then there is an awe moment to understand how brilliant Panini was, how thoroughly he thought minor things, ordering of the sutras, dividing the sutras into smaller groups, and so on, arranging the sutras, making sure that a karya that happens after the previous one in Tripadi, it is aligned in a precise manner. Phenomenal task. So that's where we complete Hal Sandhi Prakaranam of our course. So 5 classes. The important point to remember is all sutras of Hal Sandhi Prakaranam are in Tripadi, and therefore precise attention must be given to the ordering. So you have to start with 8.2, and the entire 5 classes were taken in that way. So nalopa pratipadikantastya choho kuhu jhalanjashonte monuswaraha nashchapadantasya jhali are all in 8.2 and 8.3. These were taught in the first class. Except this Nashthavya Prashana, it requires a lengthy discussion, so I moved it purely for logistics to a different class. But otherwise, all this was the material for the first class. Then we have Gnoho, Kuktukshari, the Agama related sutras that come immediately after those Adesha related sutras. So Gnoho, Kuktukshari, Dahasi, Dhut, Nashcha, Shrituk, Namo Rasvadachi Gamun all are the Agama related sutras that were taught in the second class. Then we have Stohoshtunashtu, the Chhatvam and the Shtunashtu, Shtutvam, and I combined that Nashthavya Prashan purely for fitting it in the required time. So that's basically the third class. So Shtutvam and Shtutvam, that's the next things that you have to do. Then comes the Dvitvam, the material of the yesterday's class. Achorahabhyam dve anachicha sharochi, that's Dvitvam. Jalam jashi, that apadanta jashtvam. Kharichava that's Chartvam. And Anuswarasi Parasavarna Vapadantasya Torli, that's the Parasavarna. Anuswarasi Parasavarna and Vapadantasya are related to Anuswara, so I moved their place and took them in earlier class, but they are here when it comes to the logical ordering. So this is the ordering that you have to follow, and all the way at the end, the discussion of today's class, Udastas Tambo Purvasya and Jhayo Nyatarasam, that's the Purvasavarna, Shash Choti, that's the Chhatvam, Halo Yamam Yami Lopaha, Jharo Jhari Savarne, that's the Lopaha, and we are done with Hal Sandhi Prakaranam. So Samapayamaha. Any questions for today? Otherwise, homework. I forgot, almost forgot. So homework for today's class. First question, yasyam, the very tricky question. यस्यां प्रक्रियायाम् अधोदत्तानि कार्याणि क्रमेण भवन्ति ताम् एकां प्रक्रियाम् उदाहरणरूपेण लिखत। प्रक्रियायां केवलं सूत्राणि लेखनीयानि, किमपि स्पष्टीकरणं न दातव्यम्. So you have to give me an example where these karyas happen precisely, not intermingled, but exactly in this sequence. So it must be Jashtva followed by Dvitva followed by Chartva followed by another Chartva followed by Lopa. There might be something after it and there might be something before it. That doesn't matter. But that particular segment, it must be continuous. Tugagama followed by Shutva followed by Shutva followed by Chatva followed by Lopaha. This way, 10 exercises are there. This will phenomenally increase your understanding of the sutras. And second one, ekavakyena vakyadvayena va yatha prishtam prayojanam spashtikurta. So a prayojana, a reason is asked, only one or two sentences are allowed, don't write beyond that. So Chhatvam amiti vachyam iti vartikasya kim prayojanam. So just give an example, tat plus shlokaha ityatra Chhatvam apekshate. That's all that I am looking for. Or va avasane iti sutre va iti grahanasya kim prayojanam asti. The questions are from all the Hal Sandhi related classes, not just today. And there are questions on the next page also. Don't just stop at the first page. So achorahabhyam dve ityatra ach grahanasya kim prayojanam. To hoshi ityatra udit karanasya kim prayojanam. So prayojanas are asked, one or two lines, you should be able to answer them. One last notice and then we will stop. Before that, I'll wait. If there are any questions, I can take them. So see, this kind of studying, this ordering, I mean, after teaching and studying for so many years, I'm telling you that the ordering of Siddhanta Kaumudi is thoroughly screwed up. You do Iko Yanachi and then you do Anachicha. I should actually show you what they do in Siddhanta Kaumudi. I mean, as a grantha, it is amazing grantha. But when it comes to ordering of sutras, he starts with, let's see, in Ach Sandhi Prakaranam, okay, he starts with Iko Yanachi, then goes to Anachicha, then talks about sthanivad bhava, then talks about jhalam jhashi, that's the apadanta jashtvam, then lopa, sanyoganta lopa, some other random sutras, then talks about dvitva. So you will get confused, is this atsandhi prakaranam or halsandhi prakaranam? Halo yamam yami lopaha, and then directly coming to echo yavayavaha, again random set of sutras, lopa shakalas is thoroughly intermixed. The reason is he's trying to take words and derive them. So he wants to take Sudhi plus Upasya and then derive it fully. So many sutras are needed for that derivation. So that's one way of studying, focused on the ordering. The ordering is focused on the Siddhi, Rupa Siddhi. The ordering that we are following is a hybrid. We are also focusing on Rupa Siddhi, but we are trying to stay within the boundary of ordering of Ashtadhyayi. That's extremely, extremely helpful, believe me. So for example, specifically for Hal Sandhis, just follow the order of the sutras that are taught in the class, except for one or two jumps here and there, done for purely for technical reasons, fitting the sutras in the class. And the ordering is also explained on the last 5 slides. Stick to that and you should be good. So last one comment for the next week. There are 2 classes pending. We have a class on the Visarga Deshaha and we have a class of Refa Deshaha. Siddhanta Kaumudi and so on usually call this as a Swadi Sandhi. So if you go to, there is an Ach Sandhi Prakaram, there is Prakriti Bhava, Hal Sandhi, Visarga Sandhi, and they will call Swadi Sandhi. I don't really like this name for various reasons. A better name is Refa Deshaha. So I'm just renaming my class as Refa Deshaha. So there is one Visarga Deshaha and there is one Refa Deshaha. Lots and lots of critical concepts will be taught in these 2 classes. The classes will be longer than 1.5 hours. I'm expecting each class will be 1 hour 50 minutes. Visarga Desha might be a little smaller, but Refa Desha is an extremely convoluted class. And I want to go slow mainly because people do not understand the difference between Refa Deshas and Visarga Deshas till they come to Ashtadhyayi. So Ach Sandhis, Hal Sandhis and all that you have studied in your whatever Parichaya or whatever Kovida classes. Refa Desha and Visarga Desha is everything is a mix and everything is absolutely taught in a nonsensical manner. Things that are not Visarga Sandhi. Ramo Gacchati is not a Visarga Sandhi. It is taught under Visarga Sandhi. So 100 things are taught incorrectly. Obviously, there is a reason. They want not to overwhelm students. They want to teach the rules with a simple format. So some things which are not Visarga Sandhi are treated like Visarga Sandhis. But if you keep that wrong notion, then you will not have a proper understanding of the sutras. So I want to go slow, explain what is exactly Visarga Sandhi, what is not Visarga Sandhi, and what is a Refa Desha, what kind of Sandhis happen, and so on. That's not going to be a very simple task. We will have around 1 hour 50 minutes or 2 hours classes next week. Now I am also human. So what I am going to do is I will teach for say 50 to 55 minutes. After that, I will give a small break of 5 minutes. You can relax and come back. And then again, I'll teach for 50 and 55 minutes. So that's going to be the pattern for next week. Both classes are going to be pretty long with some break and a lot of intensive matter. If you are not able to attend the full class, that's okay. Attend till whatever you want and then watch the video. If you can attend, I will definitely recommend, because live classes is the best opportunity to ask questions whenever you are stuck. You can get an immediate answer in the context. So try attending the full class, and your concepts, this is a guarantee from me, your concepts of Visarga Desha and Refa Desha will be thoroughly clear once for all. So samapayamaha, agrima saptahe punarmilamaha. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take. Otherwise, mangalacharan uktva samapayamaha. There is a question, will you make those videos in 2 sub videos? No, it's going to be a full 2-hour video. I mean, I'll edit the video and remove that middle break for 5 minutes. Otherwise, it will be a blank 5-minute class. But other than that, it's going to be a full single video on Visarga Desha and full single video on Rutva. So videos are not going to be broken. Then I may make minor edits and remove the gap. That's it. Festival break, Nasti Kim. There is no festival break. Vyakarana is a festival for me. So no break. I mean, feel free to miss the class if you have some festivals and so on. I understand. I don't plan to give break in Diwali, Christmas, whatever. I mean, if there is a specific end of module, like if you finish 6 modules and people want break for preparing for exams and so on, that's okay. That kind of break I'll give. But Eid, Muharram, Christmas, Diwali, Ganpati, Vyakarana is the only dharma that I follow. No other dharma. So, samapayama. अष्टाध्यायी जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थिता वेदानामुपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनये नमः शब्द ब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान्यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः येन धौता गिरः पुंसां विमलैश्शब्दवारिभिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. धन्यवादः.